Supercharging DITA-OT Toolkit Webhelp creation. When I sent this the proposal in, I said, you know, I basically sidetracked complete DITA-OT Toolkit Webhelp. I don't use it, and I'm 1,000 times faster. So, okay, so I rephrase it a little bit. I do not have a DITA-OT Toolkit plugin. I invite all of you to take my idea and run with it and create one, because we need one. So this is DITA-OT Toolkit Webhelp production today. This is...
Is it too soon to heckle you?
Yes. Yes. Wait until I'm finished, then you can heckle me, you know.
Okay.
Any which way you like. This is my idea of DITA-OT Toolkit Webhelp. It is really, really, really slow. It might be strong, it can pull a lot of weight, but it's really slow. Because what we do when we change one topic out of 1,000 in a big map, and we've heard maps of 50,000 topics or something today. So what we do when we create Webhelp after touching just one character in one topic in a map of 1,000 topics is we demolish the building absolutely completely. We just start from scratch, and I don't get that. I mean, DITA is about reuse, right? So why don't we reuse what we have already compiled earlier and just, you know, make changes where they need to be changed? These builders are much faster than the ones before, where they had to rebuild the whole building with one little change in one apartment because the owner wanted to have a different kind of apartment, right? So this is what I do, and I'm actually using technology that predates XML. I use PHP, and I think a lot of people will now, you know, start to get sick and run out of the room. Toilets are over there. I'm using PHP, and I think it's freaking useful. I've been using that in many, many projects, and I don't use all of PHP. You know, basically I just use one directive, which is called include. You know, that is, HTML should have had that, but it doesn't. So when I take a file, an HTML file, because I'm only talking about HTML5 output, well, HTML any output. So when you take an HTML file, something.html, and you change the file name extension to .php, guess what? You get exactly the same thing, except that the PHP processor looks at it and says, okay, nothing for me, bang, there you go, right? But if there's some PHP directive in it, like, you know, angular bracket, question mark, PHP, include this other file, it says, oh, I'll include the other file. There you go. So a topic that has a conref to another topic just needs to pull some content into it, and that's done, right? So the only thing you need is the only thing that you turn into a new PHP topic with a couple of subtopics, but I'll explain that a little bit later with the demo, which means you're going to be 1,000 times faster. If your map is big, you're going to be 10,000 times faster. So in any case, you will never be slower because, you know, well, you know, if you would be just a little bit slower, you would never win the game, right? So I'm trying to give you an idea, Smart Webhelp. I didn't build the plugin because I didn't yet build any plugin, and it's, for me, that is still way too complicated because you have to basically bypass a whole bunch of pre-processing to jump straight into the HTML5 production, but then you want to have some of the stuff. So I don't have the overview of DITA-OT Toolkit to make it work, but I hope that somebody will pick this idea up and create it, or maybe convince me that it was a bad idea to start with. Okay, so this is my DITA map. I have a very simple DITA map with 4 topics. I have put a DITA-val file in. I did that this morning. I had the idea, but I didn't have it yet. So this morning I just created a little bit of code, etc., and it's working. Okay, so this is my map, and if I now I have one hand, so now I'm partly disabled. So this is the result of my map, right? This is very simple. HTML output. In fact, this is all a whole bunch of PHP files strung together by the PHP processor. But the good news is that client side, you don't see that it was put together by PHP. So all you see is HTML. There's a table of contents here, and there's a map with 4 topics. Now, if I go into topic 1, let's go here. You see here there's a paragraph, and there's a paragraph with an ID, with note. So what I do when I create this one, I create the full text as PHP file, as topic1.php. I also create topic1_note.php. That is a conrefable item. So any item that has an ID that is not the topic itself becomes its own little snippet of PHP, which can be included by another topic by just putting a conref to this item. Which means if I put a conref to another topic, I don't have to compile the other topic again. I already have. I just make sure that I have a whole bunch of tiny little snippets of content available in case somebody needs it. So even if I created a conref to this one after I have compiled this one already, I can still only compile the topic that contains a conref without anything else. The whole idea here was I only want to compile or recompile what I have touched, nothing else, which makes it fast, right? So if I take this out, this comment where we have a con keyref, because even there it works. So I save this file and compile it, go back to my browser, and I refresh, and it has more content inside it, right? This works with conref, it works with conkeyref, it works with profiled information. If I have, like here in the bottom, in topic 4, we have 2 different users, and I'm using the audience attribute there. So if I go to topic 4, here, I would normally put some, so audience equals expert. There we go. And here, I'll put audience equals novice. Thank God for auto-completion in Oxygen. With one hand on the mic. I compile this, go back to the map, and refresh. We only have the expert use here. And if I go back to my filter, my DITA-val file, and change this into exclude, save it, compile the DITA-val, go back to my map, refresh, we have the novice information. Okay, there's one more thing here in the table of contents. I pick up the, if there's a navigation title in the topic ref in the map, that overrules the information in the nav title of the topic, and if that is not there, it takes the title of the topic. So all of that stuff is handled by this. It's just 4 XSLs, and they're not very complicated because I'm not that good of a programmer. So what I try to show is just a proof of concept, and I really hope that somebody is getting the inspiration to create a plugin out of this, because it would be really useful. Any? Right. Oh, so now Roger gets to scream at me like this is a really bad idea, right? No?
It would have been much more fun before you started, but I just wanted to point out that DITA-OT doesn't have Webhelp output, so I was curious to see how you were going to improve it.
Well, all I know is that, I take the DITA Open Toolkit stuff that's inside of Oxygen. Well, maybe that's an Oxygen plugin, I don't know.
Yeah, the Webhelp.
Yeah, is that only Oxygen?
It's an extension of the HTML transformation from the DITA-OT.
Okay, okay.
So you've insulted Oxygen, not the DITA Open Toolkit. So
Yeah, okay.
I'll hand the microphone over to George.
But still as an HTML output, so.
I think it's an interesting idea, though I also presented the convex conference earlier this year, a similar approach based on React. So instead of using PHP, I generate from data topics React components, and they form in the end also an HTML output, and they kind of aggregate themselves. So when you change a topic, you need to generate only the corresponding React component from that topic. So, and that's it. So the idea was, I mean, it was trying to explore incremental publishing for data in some ways in which the publishing framework itself allows for that. Because when you define that for each topic we have only one output file, then if that topic changes, you need to generate only that output file. Because otherwise it's a really complex problem to see what actually changes and when you change something where that propagates in the output. But then that means it's a completely different system and you give up all the customizations and all the plugins that you already have. But making that assumption, and then you need something that is dynamic on the output, either server side, like with PHP, or with the client side with the React approach. So you need to put somewhere the logic to include fragments, to resolve conreds, to some piece of code needs to do that somewhere. So yeah, but I'm not sure exactly how we can also take advantage of the existing customizations and try to address this incremental publishing idea. I know that Diana also explored, there's an issue for the Data Open Toolkit that looks into incremental publishing for data. So it's an open topic, but it's interesting to have also this approach with PHP rather than React. So Elliot also was thinking to do something with xQuery, I think. After my talk, he said something that he considered exploring something similar with xQuery. So I don't know. We will see where these ideas go in the end. I don't know.
And my feeling is that so what I do is, instead of creating something that then needs to be compiled into HTML when you view it or when you publish it, basically I'm not really publishing anymore. It's just I touch a topic and I create the PHP file, and I don't create just one PHP file. Here you see topic 3 becomes a PHP. That's the actual topic that you will see where it appears in the map. It also has a 3_phrase. It has a 3_TOC, which is the little snippet that appears in the table of contents. So there's 3 files out of 1, because we have one item that has an ID and that can become conrefable. For the map, I create a map which calls keys, which are created from the same map. It also has a body inside. So if you have a map ref, then only the body will appear inside of the body of the other map, and it will also pull in the keys. So it's really creating little Lego bricks which can be put together by PHP, which is not a system that needs to compile anything. It just pushes out, it just reads a file and pushes it into the string. And I cannot think of, well, I cannot imagine anything that is faster server-side than doing simply including files.
Yes.
I think that's probably largely correct. I'll just say that in my past job, nobody knows how I use Square, so in my past job, I once tried to talk a manager into doing some minor bit of in-browser thing. I wasn't using PHP. I don't even actually remember what I was trying to resolve. It was phrases or whatever. And I was quite firmly shut down because they said we need the static HTML out there, because even adding a microsecond to every page view, whether it's going out to get another file, was too much at scale. And I really don't know where that line is or how big of a problem that really is. I was never even able to do the calculations of how much time it added.
It would have to be measured, and if I look at the average web page that you get nowadays from large corporations that that have tens of thousands of requests If I look at what is under the hood, you know, what they drag along with it, etc., you know, there's much more to be gained there than trying to make the, you know, yeah, trying to skip, you know, reading one file from disk. So I cannot really imagine that this would be slower than any web page of a large corporation that you see nowadays that drags tons and tons of JavaScript and CSS and what have you with it. So, but you know, that's the, I just don't see why you have to recompile everything when you just change one topic. That's the whole idea. And whether you do that with the approach that George was talking about, or PHP, or some other mechanism, for me, that's really more or less beside the point.
So I have a question before we, I suppose, head into our coffee break, and that is, you showed us where you were going and pulling in conrefs, but what if the target of the conref is the thing that gets updated? Did you look at that problem?
Sure.
And maybe you did and I didn't.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Let me just show you that here.
And George,
two hands. Two hands, no voice.
So basically, you regenerate the content, that small part that is represents the target. And actually, the idea was that you split data into some objects, and those objects are anything that has an ID. That's like the smaller object that you have. And also, you realize there are implicit targets, or you have like an implicit conref in data, which are the titles. Because when you have an xref without anything, then you have a conref to the title of that topic, for instance. So there are also, it's an interesting exercise to split data into these reusable objects and see which are they, you know.
So let me see if let me use my own words to explain what is happening here. It's not that you are resolving the conref. You're essentially resolving the conref in browser rather than elsewhere.
No, it's
server
side.
PHP
server
will
side.
ensemble the result dynamically. Yeah.
Right. So you can just update the
Okay, so if you create this,
if
you create this conref, like this key conref or keyref, to topic 4 phrase, before you have included 4 in your map and compile the map, it will fail. Because 4 has not been mapped to an actual topic in the map because you didn't compile the map. And if you haven't compiled that topic 4 yet, then this will fail. So any plugin that you would create would look at the dependencies of all the files in your map and make sure that all of them are compiled, and then you have your final, your Webhelp output, right? Which is what you already do currently, but now we just throw everything away and just start recompiling the whole thing. This only compiles what needs to be compiled, but you do have those dependencies, and that has to be part of that build file. So you can look at everything that was touched, that is referenced in the map. All of those need to be compiled, and that's it. So it's you know, I think DITA is about reuse. Well, this build process is also reusing whatever you have. So it must be faster than the old steam train. Okay, I think it's time for the break, right?
Thank you.